Hello there. Thank you so much for stopping by to watch my video. This is a really important topic, and I presume that if you are here, you, like many other people out here in the world, are looking for guidance and spirituality and some kind of connection to a higher being. However, many of us also have been traumatized by religion and have rebelled against religion, and we equate spirituality and God with religion. And so if we want to have a spiritual relationship, practice, or a relationship with God, how do we do that without religion? And that's the challenge, right? And from my experience working with so many women over the years that have had goals and dreams and, want to be more of who they are, they face so many challenges because there's this lack of a connection to something bigger than themselves. So if we are just living in this world and we think and believe and walk through and live through our experience, not knowing that we have this bigger, more vast, powerful support and guidance, it's daunting out there. Like, how are we, one little person, supposed to navigate everything out here and figure everything out and make our dreams happen, make our life happen, go forth? Without any kind of faith or spiritual guidance, that's a really almost impossible task to do. It's like you find yourself going after your dreams and goals, but grudgingly and with anger. It's not a fun process. There's not a magic. There's not a mystic. There's not the appreciation for these subtle whispers and conversations that you can have to let you know that you're on the right path, which inspires you to stay the course. And all of this beauty that comes from that practice and that knowing, you are left out of. And so it's just you. So in this video, I want to demystify what a spiritual practice is. I want to even demystify God. I want to share with you a little bit about my story and my mom, how the biggest gift that my mom gave me was God in a very beautiful, spiritual, imaginative, like creative way, and especially for a child, and growing up with this foundation and having this, because without it, I mean, I could have gone down the wrong path a gazillion times. I want to start off by just sharing my experience with you and my mom. My mom, I grew up, my parents are artists. My mom was a painter. Well, she was multi dimensional in her creations. I mean, she primarily was a musician and a painter and made jewelry. And like I said, she did so many different things. She was just very, very, very creative. And she was a very close to God. She just had this deep love for God. She was raised religious, she was raised Catholic, but she left that institution and that kind of, the structure and the rules and the regulations, because that did not align with who she was. She had a different relationship with God and a more personal relationship with God. And so she converted to Judaism because she said she always felt this connection to Judaism. Judaism also let my mom down in the sense that, being someone who was mixed race and also converted, she was ostracized a lot by the Jewish community. Like when we were little, it was really important that my mom send us to Hebrew school and that we have this foundation in our formative years. So, she kept kosher in the house. She, did the Shabbos candles and practiced, the Sabbath every weekend. And she, we didn't drive, or, well, we were in New York, but we moved to San Diego for a couple of years. Like, I remember one Passover where there was a Seder, a community Seder, and I was probably about 7 or 8, and we went to this very ritzy Hebrew school, and my mom taught art there. She wanted us to have this foundation. So we went to this like fancy schmancy, super expensive Hebrew school, private school. And we were able to go because my mom taught art there. And there was this Passover, there was like this Seder that everyone was invited to from the school at this like fancy schmancy house up in La Jolla somewhere. And my mom, because you don't drive on Passover, and you was it Yom? No, it was Passover. And so we walked like for miles to this like fancy house, right? And I remember the entire walk with my mom. It was myself and my brother. I guess my sister was there too. For some reason, I don't remember her being there because she was maybe 12. I remember the entire walk looking at the stars in the sky, and my mom just telling us stories, like these beautiful stories about just God and nature and stars, and talking to the stars, and this like really just magic, right? And especially when you're little, it's like, oh, there's like, your imagination is already like, you're so wired for that kind of fantasy, invisible, kind of world, right? Living in an imaginary world. And so we walk to this house and we get there. And I remember clearly how the woman opened the door, saw us, all these like mixed brown kids who walked there. And so we were probably like a little like winded. And she was like, who invited you? It was basically just an uncomfortable situation. I remember us being in the house, but no one really talking to us, like just kind of feeling isolated. And we left, and like we walked back, and my mom, I know that really hurt her and kind of cut into her heart. And so why I'm sharing this story is because also when I was little, and how I mentioned my mom talking to the stars and nature, when I was really little, I remember my mom telling us, I mean, she told us, but I remember her speaking to me in this experience that you can speak to God wherever you are. You don't have to go to shul or temple to talk to God. You don't have to be in any of those kind of spaces. You can talk to God in nature, because God is in nature. God is in the stars. God is in the trees and the butterflies and the birds. And God is everywhere. God is within you, she told me. And she also said to me that when I talk to God, you can always, speak to God from your heart, because God always answers the prayers of children. So these two things set me up to have this very personal relationship with God. And personally, I didn't like going to shul or temple, because I always felt like an outsider in the Jewish community, even being at that fancy school. I had a few friends, but for the most part, it was myself and an Iranian girl. She was my best friend. Her name was Nazi. And Nazi and myself, we were best friends, but we were the only brown girls in this school. Basically, I feel like in our class. My brother was there also, and he had a friend. What was his name? God, I feel like he was Iranian too. I wonder if he was not, he may have been Nazi's brother, but he was a year older, and he was in my brother's class. But, I remember one gal asking me in school, and she didn't mean anything by it. I mean, she's like 7 years old, but like we put our arms up next to each other, and she's like, why is your skin so dark? Like that's where I was. I was in this place. I wasn't in New York anymore. Let's put it that way, where it's like, you got all kinds of people, everyone's kind of I'm here in San Diego in this very affluent, experience where, brown people are very, very few. So, and then later, when I would try, because I had always had this very deep, close relationship with God, I would talk to God all the time. That was the beginning of my spiritual practice. I always talk to Hashem, always. I still do, all of the time. I still live in this imaginary world, and I very much am guided by my inner voice and I listen to that. And that is at the crux of your spiritual practice, because God speaks through you and through others to communicate to you. But it's always first listening to yourself, trusting yourself, and understanding, not going against who you truly are. That is staying in that space of love and kindness. Even when we go off, like there have been so many times in my life, like, listen, I'm not like an innocent goody two shoes kid. Like, I'm a city kid, city grit, New York City, rough and tumble. There was, drugs, sex, and rock and roll. Let's just put it that way. I mean, I grew up around the corner from CBGBs. My friends were musicians. My parents were artists. There were always artists around us. However, myself and my mom and people like what I'm explaining in this practice, you have a certain line you won't cross, because you have this relationship, you have this inner knowing that, and especially if you feel like you're more, you want more, you have these boundaries, you'll only go so far. So God does not have to equal at all religion. If you come from a religious background, or you have an experience like me, like I tried to go to shul a couple of times later in my life. On the high holy days, I was always like, oh, well, let me go for like Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah. There's like a Reform temple, I'll go. And I just never, there's just so many questions. Everyone wants to know who I am and where am I from, and I'm just, why do I have to explain myself, and, oh, you don't look Jewish, which I always find is the most ignorant statement anyone can make, because what does a Jew look like? I mean, they're all over the globe. Okay. You have Jews from Africa to Mexico. There's an entire Mexican population of Jews, which is like fascinating, because I had a client whose family, her dad was of this lineage of these Mexican Jews. And I was like, whoa, like how cool is that? In China, there are Jews. So when you have these like European Jews that are like, you don't look Jewish, I just was always like, it just made me nuts, and I'm like, this is not God. I always knew that God, from the way my mom taught me who God is, that spark in me, that inner voice within me, that goodness, the good in me, my dreams, my goals, what I want for my life, what I want for myself, for my happiness, for my health. That's God. That's your spiritual practice. It's tapping into you, because you are a creation from that spark of magic. Okay. And you can call it that divine magic, that divine spark. You are created of that, and you have a purpose, and it's honoring that purpose, and it's tapping into that purpose. And it's that real self-care to bring that out, and having a routine and having a practice, praying in the way that you want to pray, and honoring God by what is true, right? Like core tenets, right? It's like obviously like being a good person, being kind to others, not hurting animals or children, right? And being good to your body, taking care of your body, because this body is borrowed for our spirit to inhabit, so we could be physical beings out here, right? So taking care of your body is a spiritual practice. Trusting yourself and doing what you know is right for you, because we're all individuals and only we know, and we're always looking for answers outside of us, which is great. Like, definitely do your due diligence, definitely do research, but the first coming to is you. Should you eat something? If you should be eating that food all the time. If you should be hanging out with that friend or that family member, and it takes time sometimes too. Like I just recently, and we'll talk more about this in coming videos, and as I'm building my community here on YouTube, and I'm going to be sharing a lot of my story in January, end of December of last year. I had to like just kind of cut ties with my father, and I hope it's not forever. I love him. I would hope to have a relationship with him, but it's really unhealthy. And then my brothers and my sister, I've just really, my dad is important to have a relationship with, but I had to honor like these people over here. My cousin said to me on the phone when I was telling him I was like really upset and I was sharing all of these kind of hurts and betrayals and pain that I went through with my family. And he said to me after listening, and afterward, he was like, whoa. And he's like, you know what? He's like, that's not your family. Those are your mother's children. I was like, oh, wow. Like that just really hit home. Like those are my mother's kids. And especially that separation is so important, to be that distinction, making that distinction when these people over here, they're not treating you with love or kindness or like sisterly or brotherly love at all. At all. They're taking all their stuff out on you and blaming you for everything. And so that really helped me to just kind of cut ties with them. Like, I'm in my 50s. I don't need to have any more of these ideas of what a family should be and we should be this. It is not that. And I can't force that on anyone. That's part of your spiritual practice, owning what your responsibility is in a situation and experience and growing from that and being able to separate yourself from these um, habits that you have that are not getting you anywhere. Always being the peacemaker or the mediator, for example. That was always my role, like trying to make peace, mediate, let's be together, let's be a family. Well, you can't, force someone to be something that they're not. They might have a whole different idea of what a family is. Their idea of what a family is perhaps is, you can like treat your family members like punching bags. You can take out all your crap on your family members. They'll always be there. They'll always understand. That's not my idea of a family member, so your spiritual practice, as you cultivate it, you want to take time with yourself, You want to ask yourself questions like, what is it that I truly want? So, and this isn't just about like dreams and goals, but personally, what is it that you truly want? And I bet for a lot of us, because most of us, what we truly want is to be happy. We want to be happy. We want to have fun. We want to smile. We want to be around people and have friends. And we just want to be happy. We want to have inner peace. We want to release the past. We want to live in the present. We want to create and, and use our intuitive knowing to create this life. We hear that other people can do it. Well, we want to do it too. Well, then start listening to this and just journaling on that and saying thank you. If you don't want to say God yet, and you're still with, thinking that God is religion and you're not able to really name this energy God, well, that's okay, because you don't have to, because your God and my God loves you no matter what you call this energy, right? There's no judgment from God. You're not going to go to hell because you don't want to say God, right? Your God, like I saw a bumper sticker once. I actually should like make one and put it on my car, but I don't want to put bumper stickers on my car, but it said, curb your God. And I love that. Curb your God. Like, your God might be the hateful type. You get divorced, you're going to hell. You're gay, you're going to hell. You're trans, you're going to hell. All these judgments, you're, all of it, all the ugliness and, all of it from racism to, homophobia to the patriarchy to all of that. That might be your God, but that is not my God. That is not what I know God to be. And my God is much kinder and much more of an ally and is always there for me. And if you want that, if that's where you want to go on that path, well, then just start talking to that energy and just start there. Start there. This is the beginning of your spiritual practice with that creative power. And that creative power, the vastness and the magnitude of it, that spark of it is in you. So you go with that spark and you allow the that vast bigness, that all omnipresent, powerful spark of light and energy to do the heavy lifting for you. You start to trust. That takes time. It takes time. For someone like myself that always had this like relationship with God in this beautiful way, well, I didn't have faith because I doubted myself for so long. I didn't know how I was going to do certain things. Like I didn't really understand faith, which is complete trust. And I finally gotten to that place. I can speak to you from a place now where it's taken years of chipping away and really trusting, and how scary, this is scary work sometimes, but you get through it because you know that nothing else is working. Nothing else is working. And you know that this is going to work, whatever that is for you and what it was for me. And so you stay with it, you stay the course, and then you get through it. And all of a sudden, so much is lifted off your shoulders and you just know that it's going to be okay. I had a client today that's like, oh, we're going away for the next 2 weeks, so we'll catch up when I come back. And then there was that chunk of change that I thought was coming in this week, but I'm like, you know what? It's fine because something else will come in, and that's fine. So that's faith. And so you're going to be on your journey. Allow your journey, allow yourself to be your true self. Let go of what is not serving you. Sometimes, that's people, and that might be harder to do. So start with baby steps. Start by letting go of behaviors that aren't serving you. Start by letting go of limiting thoughts that aren't serving you. Start by letting go of practices that or foods that are not serving you. Start by shedding over there. Spiritual practice with God is not about religion, has nothing to do with religion, unless you are bringing that spirituality into your religious life. And that's a beautiful thing. If you have that community in that church and it's like this truly spiritual, non-judgmental, beautiful space, with God. Like I always find that in choirs, in Baptist church. My grandma, my mom's mom, because she was raised Catholic, and then my grandma ended up being a part of the Baptist church, and I would go with her a few times in the choirs, like singing to God and that spirituality that comes from singing, and and that creative form of expression. So, but yes, I hope that this video clarified some things for you. I hope that my story inspired you. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. Go ahead and subscribe, leave a comment. I hope this inspired you to, start to cultivate your spiritual practice, and stay tuned for more videos. I'll be sharing more and checking in with you. I'll be creating some cheat sheets for you too, and some great journaling prompts to get you started. Below in the comments, I do have a 15-minute, it's our new beauty mindset morning routine. And this is a wonderful spiritual practice. Even the first 5 minutes of this routine you're doing when you're still in bed and your eyes are closed and you're barely awake and you're still in that alpha state, and you are just saying thank you. You're just saying thank you. And you're just appreciating, and you're in gratitude. That is your spiritual practice, saying thank you to this higher power. These are steps that can help awaken more of this within you. Okay, so go ahead and download that morning routine, subscribe to my channel, share this video with anyone that you think will inspire them, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much.